Hello guys, in this video we are going to learn about modern periodic table. In the previous video we have seen the historical development of the periodic table, how different scientists came up with their ideas to classify the elements so that we could learn their properties and the properties of their compounds in a simple way. And all the people who tried to come up with a periodic table, they consider only atomic weights. And later when Moseley found the connection between the atomic number and the properties of the elements, he came up with the law which is called as modern periodic law. What was that law? The properties of elements are periodic functions of their atomic numbers, which means the properties of the elements are repeated after certain regular intervals when these elements are arranged in the order of their increasing atomic numbers. So the periodic table that we have based on this modern periodic law is called as modern periodic table, and it is also called as the long form of the periodic table. So in this video, we are going to see in detail about this modern periodic table. In the long form of the periodic table, we have horizontal rows and vertical columns. I've drawn a outline of this periodic table. So these horizontal rows are called periods and these vertical columns are called as groups. So in the modern periodic table, we have 7 periods which are horizontal rows and we have 18 groups which are vertical columns. So periods are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same way groups are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 18. Not like Mendeleev periodic table where he used Roman letters, Roman letter 1, 2, 3. Here we just have numbers for periods 1 to 7 and for groups 1 to 18. Now we are going to see what is the connection between the periodic table and the atomic number, because we have the modern periodic law which states that the physical and chemical properties of the elements are the periodic functions of their atomic number. So there should be a connection between the periodic table and the atomic number. When we say atomic number, we are actually talking about electronic configuration. So we're going to see the connection between the periodic table and the electronic configuration. As I said already, the long form of the periodic table consists of 7 horizontal rows called periods, and they are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each period, see these are the periods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each period consists of a series of elements whose atoms have the same principal quantum number of the outermost shell, which means this is the first period. If you pick an element from this period, the last electron of that element's atom will be present in the K shell, which means n is equal to 1. If you pick an element from this period, for example 6th period, if you take the atom and see the electronic configuration, the last electron will be in the shell where n is equal to 6. So these numbers represent the principal quantum number, which is represented as n. So the first period corresponds to the filling of electrons in the first energy shell. Second period corresponds to the filling of electrons in the second energy shell, that is when n is equal to 2. Same way the third period corresponds to the filling of electrons in the third energy shell, which is having n is equal to 3. This third shell has totally 9 orbitals, which means 1s, 1 3s, 3 3p and 5 3d, like this. In the third shell we have 3s, 3p, 3d. So each has 1 orbital, 3s 1 orbital and 3p we have 3 orbitals and 3d 5 orbitals. So totally we have 9 orbitals. But from the energy level diagram where we talked about Aufbau's principle, in that energy level diagram we know after 3s 3p filled, we don't fill 3d. Electrons enter the 4s orbital because 3d orbital has higher energy than 4s orbital. So 4s is filled first and then 3d is filled. So while following that order, third period has elements in which 3s and 3p are filled and not 3d. So 3d will be filled after 4s is filled. So to understand in each period which orbitals are filled, I've written this flowchart kind of thing. See, in the first period, 1s orbital is filled, which means in 1s there can be 2 electrons. So 1s1 is one element, 1s2 will be the other element. So there will be 2 elements in the first period. In the second period, what will be filled? 2s and 2p orbitals will be filled. Third period, we have 3s and 3p. And in fourth period, see, 4s, 4p and 4d will be filled. Actually, the order will be 4s and then 3d and 4p. But in fourth period here, we have elements in which these orbitals are filled. And in fifth period, we have elements in which these 3 orbitals are filled. 3 subshells. Actually, when it comes to orbitals, the number will be different, which I will be explaining now. So just look at the subshells which are filled in each period. In the sixth period, it starts with 6th new shell. 6s, 6p, 5d, 4f. So all this will be filled in the 6th period. In the 7th period, these subshells will be filled. So each principal quantum number represents one period. So you can say each period begins with the filling of electrons in a new energy shell. So in the first period, first shell is filled. In the second period, second shell is filled. In the third, it starts with third shell. In fourth, see, it starts with fourth. In fifth period, the filling of electrons starts from the new shell, which is fifth shell. In the sixth period, sixth shell, and seventh period, seventh shell. So each period begins with the filling of electrons in a new energy shell. Now let's try to understand this in detail. So try to recall from that flow chart that we have just seen. For period number 1, the orbitals filled will be 1s. And how many electrons can be present in 1s? 2 electrons, which means there is only one orbital, and each orbital can have accommodate 2 electrons. So there are 2 elements in the first period. Now coming to the second period, which are the orbitals filled? 2s and 2p. So totally how many electrons can be there? 2 electrons in 2s and 6 electrons in 2p, because in 2p we have 2px, 2py and 2pz, and each orbital can accommodate 2 electrons. So 3 2s are 6. So 2 plus 6, there would be 8 elements. So in the second period, there are a total of 8 elements. So when you write 1s1, that is the first element. When you write 1s2, that is the second element. When you write 1s2 and then 2s1, that is the third element. Same way 1s2, 2s2 will be the fourth element. 1s2, 2s2, 2p1 would be the fifth element. So it goes on. The third period, what are the orbitals filled? 3s and 3p. Again, there would be 8 elements in the third period. In the fourth period, the orbitals filled are 4s, 4p, 3d. So 4s, 2 electrons, and in 4p there could be 6 electrons, because 3 orbitals are possible, and in 3d we have 5 orbitals, so 5 2s are 10. So totally we have 18 electrons, so there could be 18 elements in fourth period. In fifth period also we have 18 elements, because what is filled? 5s, 5p, 4d. And the sixth period, 6s, 6p, 5d and 4f are filled, and so we have 32 elements. Same way in the seventh period we have 32 elements. The questions will be asked like, there are 8 electrons in the second period. So there are 8 elements. So the question would be, the second period has 8 elements. How would you justify the presence of 8 elements in the second period of the periodic table? So what would be your answer? When n is equal to 2, then what will be the orbitals filled? 2s and 2p. And there are totally 8 electrons accommodated in these orbitals. So we have 8 elements in the second period. Same way, how would you justify the presence of 18 elements in the fifth period of the periodic table? When n is equal to 5, okay, what will be the L value? L will be equal to 0, 1, 2, 3. So what will be the order in which the orbitals will be filled? 5s will be filled first, and then 4d, and then 5p. So the total number of orbitals available are 9 orbitals. See, we have 9 orbitals. How do we say 9 orbitals? In s we have 1 orbital, in p we have 3 orbitals, and d we have 5 orbitals. So 5 plus 3 plus 1 would be equal to 9. So number of orbitals 9, and each orbital can accommodate 2 electrons. So total number of electrons would be 18. So we have 8 elements in the fifth period. So now we will move on to the groups, the vertical columns. As we have seen already, there are 18 groups in the modern periodic table. Groups are the vertical columns. So now we are going to see the group-wise electronic configuration of the elements. When you see the electronic configuration of the elements in the same group, which means the same vertical column, they will have similar valence electronic configuration. What is valence electronic configuration? The configuration in the outermost shell. Here I have written the example of group 1 elements and their electronic configuration. Now see, atomic number 3, 11, 19, 37, 55, 87. They all belong to the first group. So 3 lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium and francium. Here the electronic configuration of these atoms are written. See, 1s2, 2s1 for lithium. For sodium, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. And for potassium, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s1. And for rubidium, for 36, you can write the configuration of krypton, and the 1 electron enters 5s1. Now if you look at the valence shell configuration, we have 2s1, 3s1, 4s1, 5s1, 6s1 and 7s1. So you can commonly write this configuration as ns1. N can be the principal quantum number. So in the case of lithium, n is equal to 2. In the case of sodium, n is equal to 3. So all the elements in the same group, which means in the same vertical column, have the same valence shell electronic configuration. So here in this case, the group 1 elements have the configuration ns1. So these are the first group elements. Now when you look at the period number, so this is the second period, third period, fourth period, fifth period, sixth period and seventh period. Now see, that's the reason why we have 7 here, 6, 5. All these number represents the principal quantum number, and that is related to the period number. As we know, the electronic configuration of atoms provide a theoretical foundation for the periodic classification. The elements in the vertical column of the periodic table is called as a group, and they exhibit similar behavior. So all of them will be having similar behavior in the terms of chemical properties and physical properties. We have already seen that these similarities are arising because these elements have the same number of electrons in the outermost shell and the same distribution of electrons in the outermost shell. Now just now we have seen this example, say this elements belonging to the same group having same number of electrons in the outermost shell. So see, each of them having 1 electron in the outermost shell, and the distribution is also similar, which means all the electrons are present in the s subshell only. So depending upon the type of atomic orbitals that are being filled by the electrons, these elements are classified into 4 different types. So we will see the electronic configuration and the type of elements, whether they belong to S block, P block, D block or F block elements. Now we have a total of 18 groups in the modern periodic table. So the group number 1 and 2, the valence shell configuration, which means the orbital in which the electrons are filled. We have seen just now, we have seen the example of group 1 elements. In group 1 elements, we had the general electronic configuration ns1. Same way in the second group, we will have ns2. So in the group number 1 and 2, the elements are termed as s block elements because the valence shell electron enters the s orbital. So we call these group 1 and 2 as s block elements. Same way, the group 3 to 12, the valence electron enters the D subshell, so we call that block of elements as D block elements from the group number 3 to 12. And from group number 13 to 18, the valence electron, which means the last electron, enters the P subshell, so we term that block of elements as P block elements. And just like how we have written NS1 as the general electronic configuration of group 1 elements, we can write the general electronic configuration of group 2 elements as NS2. So as a whole, for the S block elements, you can write the electronic configuration as NS1 to 2. If it is NS1, then they belong to first group. If it is NS2, they belong to the second group. This N can be 2, 3, 4, 5. So if it is 2, then that element belongs to the second period. If this is 3, then that element belongs to the third period. Same way, the general outer electronic configuration of D block elements are written as N-1D 1 to 10 NS0 to 2. Now I'll show you why we write like this with an example. Same way for P block elements, the outer electronic configuration is NS2 NP 1 to 6. And when you see the periodic table, we have two series of elements placed at the bottom. They are called as F block elements because the valence electrons, which is the last electron, enters the F orbital. So we write the general electronic configuration of F block elements as N-2F 0 to 14, N-1D 0 to 1, NS2. So depending upon to which orbital the last electron enters, we term these group of elements as S block, P block, D block and F block elements. I'll show you with an example how we write this general electronic configuration for these individual block of elements. See, I've taken an element from group 1, that is from S block. So sodium, the atomic number is 11, so I can write the electronic configuration like this. I have taken one more element from group 1, which is potassium. I have written the electronic configuration like this. Now see the valence shell configuration. For sodium it is 3s1, for potassium it is 4s1. So I can write this configuration as ns1. Same way I have taken two elements from the second group 2. So magnesium and beryllium. This is the configuration of magnesium. This is the configuration of beryllium. Look at the valence shell configuration. This is 3s2 and for beryllium it is 2s2. So I can write this general configuration as ns2. So n can be 2 or 3. If it is beryllium, n will be equal to 2. If it is magnesium, n will be equal to 3. So the general configuration I am writing as ns1 for group 1 and ns2 for group 2. So as a whole for S block, I can write ns1 to 2. So this is the general electronic configuration of S block elements. Same way, coming to D block elements, I have taken an example, scandium and copper. Scandium's atomic number is 21. So the configuration is written like this. See, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6. After that 4s is filled, 4s2, 3d1. When we say outer electronic configuration, here in this case, we are not just taking this outer shell configuration. We are taking this 3D also, which is called as penultimate shell. So the shell that is present next to the outermost shell is called as penultimate shell. So we will take both of this configuration. So if I am taking 4 as n, this is the biggest number. So if I am taking this as n, so ns2, see ns2, and if n is equal to 4, what is the number before d? It is 3. So it is n minus 1. So if s subshell in the fourth main shell is filled, then D subshell in the third main shell is filled. So we are representing this as ns2 n minus 1 d1. Because here the number of electron is 1, so I am writing 1. Same way for copper, the electronic configuration is atomic number is 29. So this would be the electronic configuration. We expect it to be 4s2 3d9, but we have seen the extra stability of half weld. So the correct configuration is 3D10 4S1. So how can I write the general configuration? NS1 N minus 1 D, there are 10 electrons. From these two configuration, it is clear when you take D block elements, Ns can have either 1 electron or 2 electron, and N minus 1 D can have 1 till 10 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending upon what element you are taking, the number of electrons in the D subshell varies. So combining all this, you can write the electronic configuration as, for D block elements, N minus 1 D 1 to 10, Ns 0 to 2. If n is equal to 4, D would be 3D. If n is equal to 5, this would be 4D. If n is equal to 6, this would be 5D. So this is how we write the general electronic configuration of D block. Same way for P block elements, see I have taken two examples. Aluminium. Aluminium's atomic number is 13. So this is the configuration. Look at the outer configuration, 3s2 3p3. So I can write this as ns2 np3. And look for organ. This is 3s2 3p6. I can write it as ns2 np6. If I take some other element, this can be 4s2 4p4 or 4s2 4p5, or it can be 5s2 5p5. So depending on that, you can write the general configuration as ns2 np3, ns2 np6. This ns2 is not changing, but np can have electrons from 1 to 6. Just like how D can have electrons from 1 to 10, here it can be from 1 to 6. So the general electronic configuration for the outermost shell for P block elements can be written as ns2 np 1 to 6. So the principal quantum number is same for both S and P, but in this case S belongs to a higher principal level, I mean the shell. Here D belongs to the lower shell. That is the reason why we write n minus 1 here and ns here, ns np. Same way we write for F block elements also. Now we will look at the periodic table and we'll try to understand what we have learned so far. This is the long form of the periodic table. See, we have 7 periods, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 periods, and we have 18 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 groups, and you have 2 series of elements at the bottom of the periodic table, and we call them as F block elements. The reason why this is put here, this is actually supposed to be here. See, 57 lanthanum from 57, and then it should come here as 58, 59 till 71, and same way here after 89 this 90 should come. When we put this 2 series of elements here, this would be too lengthy, I mean this periodic table. So to avoid this undue expansion of this periodic table, these 2 series of elements are kept at the bottom of the periodic table. As I told you, these 2 group, first and 2 group, these elements are called as S block elements, and these 3 to 12, these elements are called as D block elements, and this block of elements are called as P block, and this elements are called as F block elements. Apart from classifying these elements as S, P, D and F block elements, elements can also be classified based on their properties. So based on their properties, these elements are divided as metals and non-metals. Metals comprise more than 78% of all known elements, and they usually appear on the left side of the periodic table. So of all the elements that we know, 78% of these elements are metals. You would have studied the properties of metals in lower classes. Metals are usually solids at temperature, and there is an exception, which is mercury. We have mercury here, which is an exception. It is in liquid form, and metals have high melting and boiling points. Again, we have an exception in that case. Gallium and cesium, they have low melting points. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. They are malleable, ductile, just non-metals are in contrast with these metals properties. Metals are present at the left side of the periodic table and non-metals are present at the right side of the periodic table. In this horizontal row, when you see, there will be a transition in the property of elements from metallic on the left to non-metallic on the right. And non-metals are usually solids or gases at room temperature, and they have low melting and boiling points. And again, exception is boron and carbon. They are exceptions. Non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity, not like metals, which are good conductors of heat and electricity. Mostly non-metallic salts are brittle, and they are neither malleable nor ductile, which means they cannot be drawn into thin sheets or wires like metals. You should note one thing: as you move down a group, the metallic character increases. Like this, from top to bottom, as you move, the metallic character increases, and the metallic character decreases as you move from left to right of the periodic table, which means as you move from left to right of the periodic table, the non-metallic character increases. When we say the non-metallic character gradually increases, which means there is a transition from metals to non-metals as we move along the period, that change is not abrupt. So the character gradually changes. It is usually shown by a zigzag line from here, from silicon. These elements which are lying here, namely silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, and tellurium, they border this line. They behave as metalloids, which means they show the characteristics of both metals and non-metals. So hope you now have an idea about the periodic table and how these elements are arranged. Now we will see few common characteristics of each block of elements. First one is S block elements. They belong to group 1 and 2, and they have the general electronic configuration NS 1 to 2. They are reactive metals. S block elements, they are ready to lose electrons. So they are very reactive metals, because if you see in the outer electronic configuration, they have one electron. If they lose that electron, they will gain octet configuration. When we are talking about all these blocks of elements, S block, P block, D and F block, we have two exceptions, two elements, which are hydrogen and helium. If you see the electronic configuration of helium, it is 1s2. So we expect helium to be in group 1, group 2, but it is placed in the 18th group because when you take 1s2, it is a completely filled configuration. So helium shows some properties of noble gases. So helium is placed in the 18th group. Same way, the next element is hydrogen, whose outer electronic configuration is 1s1. And so it is placed in the group 1 along with alkali metals. It can also gain an electron to achieve a noble gas arrangement, and these hydrogen behaves just like 17th group element, which are called as halogens, because 17th group elements have 7 electrons in their outermost shell. If they gain 1 electron, they will become noble gas configuration. So this hydrogen behaves just like these group 17 elements. So because of this special features, hydrogen is placed separately on the top of the periodic table. Now getting back to S block elements, they have metallic character. S block elements are metals, and their reactivity decreases down the group. As you move down the group, I told you, the metallic character increases, and the same way reactivity also increases as you move down the group. Because of this reactive nature, these S block elements are not found in pure state in the nature. They are usually found in combined state, and these S block elements are predominantly ionic, which means they bond with other atoms through ionic bonding by sharing by complete transfer of electrons. They don't share electrons, When atoms share electrons, we call that compounds as covalent compounds. But here S block elements are ionic compounds, and we have an exception, lithium and beryllium. Other than these two elements, all the other elements in the S block are predominantly ionic. Now coming to P block elements, the groups 13 to 18 are called as P block elements, and they have the general electronic configuration NS2, NP6. And among all the P block elements, group 18 elements, they have low reactivity because they have 8 electrons in their outermost shell, so they don't react with any other chemicals. So that's the reason why they are called as inert gases or noble gases. You will be learning about all these block of elements like S block, P block in detail in the upcoming lessons, and same way about these P block, D and F block you will be learning in detail in grade 12 also. So now you are just having an idea about the general characteristics of all these elements. And group 17 elements are called as halogens, and group 18 elements are called as chalcogens. This halogens, it starts with fluorine, and this starts with oxygen. And these two group of elements are highly reactive because group 17 elements have 7 electrons in the outermost shell, and group 16, this is not 18, just now we have seen 18, this is group 16, they are called as chalcogens, and in group 16 they have 6 electrons in their outermost shell. So if this group elements, if atoms, if they gain 1 electron, they attain octet configuration. Same way, if they gain 2 electrons, they attain octet. So they will be very ready to accept electrons. That's the reason why they are highly reactive. In this case, they are ready to lose electrons, so they are highly reactive. Here they are ready to accept electrons, so they are highly reactive. And here they are metals, here they are non-metals. And non-metallic character increases along the period as you move from left to right of the periodic table. On the left side we have S block elements, which are metals. On the right side we have P block elements, which are non-metals. So non-metallic character increases along the period, and metallic character increases down the group. Now D block elements, groups 3 to 12, and the general electronic configuration is this: N-1D, 1 to 10, and Ns 0 to 2. And here in D block elements, all are metals. They mostly form colored ions. For example, if you take copper sulfate solution, it is blue in color because of the presence of Cu2 plus ions. And they exhibit variable oxidation state, which means if you take sodium, the oxidation state is +1, Na+. If you take iron, which is a D block element, the oxidation state can be 2+ or 3+. Where sodium is S block element, here iron is a D block element, and it can show variable oxidation states. And D block elements are often used as catalyst in many of the chemical reactions. And these D block elements are also called as transition elements, because these D block elements, which are present in the middle of the periodic table, they form a bridge between the metallic S block elements and the non-metallic P block elements. So there is a transition in the property which happens through D block elements. That's the reason these D block elements are also called as transition elements. We usually say a D block is sandwiched between S block and P block. You know what is a sandwich? We have stuffings in between two loaves of bread. Same way we have S and P block, in between D block is sandwiched. And the same way S block and P block elements together are called as main group elements or representative elements, and D block elements are called as transition elements. These D block elements exhibit paramagnetism, which means if these elements are kept in the magnetic field, they align themselves along the direction of the magnetic field. When atoms align themselves in the direction of magnetic field, we call them as paramagnetic. So these D block elements exhibit paramagnetism. You will be learning about all this in detail. And the last block of elements, F block elements, they are placed at the bottom of the periodic table, and this is the general electronic configuration. Here if Ns here if it is 6, then D would be N-1, 5D. Here F would be 4F. So 4F, 5d, 6s would be the configuration. So that's the reason we have written ns, n minus 1d, n minus 2f. There are two rows of elements which are named as lanthanoids and actinoids. So the lanthanoids, we have elements cerium with atomic number 58 to lutetium with atomic number 71. So these series of elements are called as lanthanoids, and actinoids starts from thorium with atomic number 90 to lanthanum atomic number 103. Sorry, this is lawrencium, this is Lr 103. So these series of elements are called as actinoids from thorium to lawrencium. These F block elements are also called as inner transition elements, and when you study about lanthanoids and actinoids, it is easy to learn the chemistry of lanthanoids than actinoids, because the chemistry of actinoids are more complicated. And actinoid elements are radioactive in nature, which means they emit radiations from the nucleus, and elements after uranium are called as transuranium elements. These are the properties of different blocks of elements. Now you would have understood the relationship between the electronic configuration of the elements and the arrangement of these elements in the periodic table. Thank you.